Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Always ready to jump into some fascinating ancient wisdom.
And today we're going way back, cracking open the book of Deuteronomy,
Deuteronomy.
chapter 9 specifically,
Mm-hmm.
trying to see how, well, something written thousands of years ago
Thousands of years ago.
can still be relevant to, us just trying to live our lives today.
It's interesting because this chapter focuses on Moses,
Okay.
and he's talking to the Israelites right before they enter the promised land.
Right.
And he's giving them this pep talk, but it's not what you'd expect.
Oh.
He's basically saying, look, you guys are about to go up against some, pretty tough enemies.
Yeah.
But don't worry so much about that, because your success isn't going to be because you're so righteous.
Right.
It's going to be because God is going to keep his promises.
That's interesting. So it's not about them. It's about, a higher power playing a role.
Exactly. Something bigger than them is at work here.
Huh. So are there any, examples in this chapter that sort of illustrate that idea?
Well, yeah, so picture this. The Israelites, after, wandering in the desert forever.
40 years.
Yeah, 40 years. They're finally, at the edge of the promised land, right?
Okay.
And Moses is like, oh, okay, here's the deal. But he's not saying, you guys are so great, you deserve this. It's more like, hey, remember those promises God made to your ancestors way back when?
Yeah.
This is it. This is him making good on those promises.
So it's almost like they're getting the credit for something they didn't really, they went through a lot.
Right,
But
exactly.
Yeah.
They're not the sole reason for their success.
It kind of makes you wonder how often, in our own lives we do that.
Totally. We're so quick to take credit, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was all me. I worked so hard.
But there's often so much more to it, things we don't even see.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe someone helped us along the way.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just, good timing or something.
Yeah. Or even our families.
Yeah.
The sacrifices our parents made.
Exactly. Things we don't even think about.
Huh. So then how does the story of the golden calf, fit into all this?
Yeah. Well, that's where things get really interesting. So Moses is up on Mount Sinai, getting the 10 Commandments, right? And the people are down below waiting.
Right.
And they get impatient. And they're like, you know what? We're going to make a golden calf.
A golden calf to worship.
Yeah, they're like, this is going to be our new God.
Wow. So kind of going against everything Moses is saying up on the mountain.
Totally. Complete disobedience. They literally just got told no idols.
Right.
And they're like, hold my beer, watch this.
So what happens? Does God, smite them all?
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't, he's angry, of course, but he shows mercy.
He shows mercy.
Yeah.
Even after that.
Yeah. And Moses, well, he's pretty upset too, you can imagine.
Right.
But he actually steps in and pleads with God to spare the people.
Oh, wow. So he's kind of like a go-between.
Yeah. He's advocating for them, even though they messed up big time.
So he's kind of showing that same mercy that God is showing.
Exactly. And it makes you think, right? About how powerful that kind of intercession can be.
It is pretty powerful.
Yeah. We've all needed someone to stick up for us at some point, right?
Yeah.
Or been that person for somebody else.
Yeah, totally. So we've got this, this whole backdrop of the promised land.
Right.
This idea of success not always being about what we do, but also these unseen forces.
Yeah.
And then this stark contrast of the golden calf.
Yeah.
Where even with disobedience, there's still mercy.
Exactly. And all these things, they're not just ancient stories.
Right.
They have wisdom in them that we can still learn from today.
Let's dig into that then.
Yeah. So let's take humility, for example.
Humility.
The Israelite story, it's this reminder, right? To not get too big for our britches.
Not take all the credit for ourselves.
Exactly. How much of what we achieve is actually because of us and how much is other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Other people helping us out or good timing or
just plain luck, Or like you said before, our families, the opportunities they give us.
Right. That we didn't even earn just because we were born into that family.
Exactly. And it's not about putting ourselves down, Humility isn't about that.
No, it's more about recognizing, like you said, the bigger picture.
Yeah. Remembering we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
And acknowledging that there are all these forces at play that we don't control.
Right. And that leads to gratitude, doesn't it? When you realize you didn't do it all yourself.
It does, yeah. When you realize how much you've been given.
It's this natural response, right? To be thankful for what you have.
Yeah, totally. But it's easy to forget to do that.
Totally. We get so caught up in our own lives,
Yeah. So how do we actually remember to be grateful?
Well, one thing I try to do is just like take a few minutes each day and think about what I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Like, just make it a habit.
Exactly. And it can be anything, really, big or small.
Right. Like your health, your family.
Yeah, or even just like, a good cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah. Or that the sun is shining or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything that makes you feel good. And there's actually research that shows that gratitude is good for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it can improve your mental and physical health, reduce stress, all that good stuff.
So it's not just like a feel-good thing. It actually has tangible benefits.
Right. It's powerful stuff.
Wow. Okay, so we've got humility and gratitude. What about intercessory prayer?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Remember how Moses was interceding for the Israelites?
Yeah, he was like pleading with God for them.
Right. And that's what intercessory prayer is all about, praying for other people.
But how does that work, like practically?
Well, it starts with just being aware of the people in your life who are struggling.
Okay, so like thinking about your friends and family and who might be going through a tough time.
Exactly. And then you just pray for them. You lift them up in your heart.
And it doesn't have to be some big formal prayer.
No, not at all. Just a simple, heartfelt prayer can be really powerful.
So it's more about the intention behind it,
Yeah.
the sincerity. And it's amazing, how just knowing someone is praying for you can make a difference.
Yeah, totally. Okay, and what about learning from our mistakes?
Ah, yes. So Moses, he reminds the Israelites about all the times they messed up.
Like how they kept rebelling against God.
Yeah, but he's not doing it to shame them. It's more like, hey, remember this. Let's learn from it.
So it's about using our past mistakes as opportunities to grow.
Exactly. Instead of dwelling on them and feeling bad about ourselves, we can use them to become better people.
Right. So like asking ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time?
Exactly. And that takes grace, doesn't it? To be able to forgive ourselves and move on.
It does, yeah. To remember that we're all human, we all make mistakes.
And that's okay. We're not defined by our mistakes.
So it's about being kind to ourselves. Yeah. And that leads to that final point we were talking about, trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
Okay? Yeah, like how the Israelites had to trust in God's faithfulness.
Right. And we all need that too, right? Something to give us hope and strength when things get tough.
Something to remind us that we're not alone in this.
Exactly. That there's a force greater than ourselves that's got our back.
Yeah, it really is amazing how, these stories still speak to us today.
It's like they have this timeless wisdom,
Totally. And we started this deep dive talking about the Israelites and how their success wasn't just because of them.
Right. It was because God was keeping his promises to them.
Exactly. And that makes me think, what about us? What promises are we holding on to in our own lives?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What are the things that give us hope, that give us purpose?
Yeah. And are we living in a way that, shows that we actually believe in those promises?
Are we putting in the work? Are we actually trying to make those things happen? Yeah, exactly. Because it's easy to say we believe in something, but it's harder to actually live it out.
It is. It's a constant challenge, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's where all these principles we've been talking about come in.
Like humility and gratitude and all that.
Yeah, humility reminds us that we're not the center of the universe.
Mm.
Gratitude helps us to appreciate what we have.
And intercessory prayer helps us to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And learning from our mistakes, well, that helps us to grow and become better people.
Right. It's all about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, that gives us strength when things get tough.
Totally. It's like having this foundation to stand on when everything else is shaking.
It really does feel like all these principles together, they're like a roadmap for living a good life.
I think so, yeah. And the best part is anyone can use it. You don't need anything special.
Yeah, you just have to be willing to try.
Right. Just be open to it.
Yeah.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Deuteronomy chapter 9, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
I think just the idea that even these ancient texts, they can still teach us so much about life today.
Yeah, they're full of timeless wisdom.
And that by, remembering things like humility and gratitude and prayer and learning from our mistakes.
And trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. We can live better lives, more fulfilling lives.
That's beautifully said. And, since we were talking about God's faithfulness to the Israelites,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder, if that faithfulness extends even to those who disobey, what does that say about how he feels about us today?
It's something to think about, isn't it?
It is. Something to ponder as we go about our week. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Keep diving.